I came back. 4 simple words, but the weight behind them? You could feel it settle into the room like a storm about to break. And this is where everything started to change. Because up until this moment, the case was about land, ownership, documents, legality. But now, it was about something much harder to measure, a promise. And promises, especially ones tied to sacrifice, don't fit neatly into legal frameworks. Now watch the room carefully. The judge leaned back slightly. Fingers pressed together, classic evaluation posture. He wasn't just listening anymore. He was processing. The corporate lawyers? Less comfortable now. The lead attorney adjusted his tie, voiceover. Small movement. But telling, that's a micro-signal of tension, because narratives like this, they don't just add emotion, they create risk, voiceover. And risk is something corporate strategy tries to eliminate at all costs. Now the veteran continued, no rush, no theatrics, just truth. Or at least, what he believed to be truth. When I left, that land was empty, he said. Nothing but dirt and a small structure. His voice remained steady, but there was a subtle shift now, not louder, not softer, heavier. And when I came back, he stopped. And here's that pause again, intentional or not. It worked, because now the entire courtroom needed the next sentence. And when I came back, it was gone. Gone, one word. But it echoed, because gone doesn't just mean changed. It means erased. And psychologically, that's powerful, because erasure suggests something was taken, not lost. Now the prosecutor immediately seized the opening. Your Honor, the lead lawyer stepped forward, voice firm again. Even if we assume this story to be accurate, it still does not establish legal ownership. Verbal claims, especially those made decades ago, cannot override documented title. Strong argument, clean, logical. And for a moment, it landed. Because courts do run on evidence, not memories. But here's where the veteran did something unexpected. He didn't argue back. He didn't challenge the logic. Instead, he nodded and said, "You're right." Now that caught everyone off guard because agreement, in this moment, was not expected, especially from someone fighting for his home. But here's the psychological layer most people miss. When someone agrees with your strongest point, it disarms you. It lowers your guard. It makes you feel like you're winning. And that's exactly what happened. You could see it in the lawyer's posture, slight relaxation, confidence returning. But then, the veteran added something. And this is where things started to tilt. But that's not what this is about. Silence again, because now we have contrast. Agreement, followed by contradiction, a powerful rhetorical move. The judge leaned forward. "Then what is this about?" he asked. And the veteran turned, not to the judge this time, but toward the corporate lawyers, direct eye contact, steady, unblinking. "They didn't just take the land," he said. "They took everything that came with it." Now that sentence? It changed everything, because everything that came with it is ambiguous, and ambiguity creates tension. What else was there? What was tied to that land? Why was it so important? And more importantly, why hadn't any of this been mentioned before? Now let's pause here for a second, because this is where courtroom strategy becomes fascinating. Up until now, the corporate team controlled the narrative. Clear ownership, clear violation, clear outcome. But the veteran? He's introducing uncertainty, and uncertainty is dangerous. Because once a judge starts questioning the story behind the documents alone may not be enough. Now the lead lawyer tried to regain control. "Your Honor, with respect, this is speculation. There is no evidence presented to support." And then the judge interrupted again, but this time differently. Let him finish. No hesitation, no explanation. Just authority. And you could feel it. Control had shifted again. Now watch the veteran closely, because what he does next is not random. He reached back to the table, picked up the metal tag, held it slightly higher this time, so everyone could see it. and said something that made the courtroom go completely still. They told me to bury this when it was over. Now that line? That's not just information, that's a trigger, because now we're talking about instructions, offers. Something official, or at least presented as official. And immediately, questions flood the mind. Who told him that? Why bury it? What was over? And why does it matter now? Now the corporate lawyers were no longer relaxed. You could see it clearly. One of them leaned toward the other, whispered something quickly, urgent, voiceover. Because this was no longer a simple eviction case. Now it was starting to sound like something else entirely. Something buried, literally. Now the judge spoke again. Did you bury it? Voiceover. He asked. Sub-question, but loaded. And the veteran nodded. Yes, and where? The judge pressed. And here's where the room held its breath, because location means verification, voiceover. Verification means evidence, and evidence changes everything. The veteran didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked down at the tag, then slowly back up, and said, voiceover, right where they told me I'd always be safe. And the moment he said that, something clicked, not fully, not clearly, but enough. Because now the land itself wasn't just land anymore, voiceover. It was a marker, a place tied to something hidden, something buried, something the corporate lawyers never mentioned, and maybe never expected anyone to remember, voiceover. Now the lead lawyer stood up again, but this time his voice wasn't as smooth. Your Honor, voiceover. This is becoming irrelevant and potentially misleading. But before he could finish, the veteran said something that cut straight through the room. I can show you, voiceover. And just like that, every single person in that courtroom knew. This case was about to go somewhere no one had planned for.